Hey, sports fans, it's Larry Eater with RunBlogRun. It's your favorite programming of the week, Athletics Chat, and this is number 44. So that's four fingers, another four fingers. And Stuart is in the intellectual and vexing capital of the world, Oxford, England. Hello, Stuart.
Hello. Yes.
And I'm in the cheese capital of the world, the dairy capital of the world, Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. Greetings to all who enter this humble city of dairy products.
Well, look, you keep saying that, but you never produce any cheese for us.
You know, I will tell you that I will start showing you. I have some Camembert in the fridge that is quite delicious. And they used to have this. They have a blue cheese out here called Maytag Blue, and it is scrumptious. So if you want to make some money in Wisconsin, come up with a cheese recipe and the state will help you. You know, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So, all right. So we've got the GB Marathon trials coming up in just a few days. Tell me about that, my friend. Yeah.
Well, it's the first time for 40 years that it's a freestanding event, because normally our marathon trials are part of the London Marathon. But of course, the London Marathon is not until after the Olympics.
Sure.
I think it will be a real challenge for the runners, because rather than running on the streets of London, they will be running around Kew Gardens, which is a large horticultural garden, and they'll be running 12 laps, and the race walkers are in the same venue, but the race walkers are going off at 6 a.m. and the marathons at 8 a.m.
Okay.
Now, and again, it's the Olympic trials, but it's not straightforward, because in theory the first two qualify automatically, and then there's one discretionary place. But in all the events, it's possible that people will finish in the first two who don't have the qualifying time. And to make it even more complicated for the men, Callum Hawkins has already been pre-selected on the basis that he is by far our best marathon runner, and therefore to allow him to plan his year. So, Larry, what would you do if you were Callum Hawkins and you're pre-selected and there's a marathon trial? Well, he is going to pace it.
Yeah, that's what Tom Bedford was telling me. I think that's fantastic. Yeah. Callum's a good kid, you know, and I've heard his wonderful things about him and his brother and his pop. So
but I mean, for example, in the men's, we have got 3 runners who have the qualifying time. So theoretically, they are competing for one place.
Wow.
But then there's also Derek Hawkins and Johnny Miller, who have the qualifying time but who are not running. So again, it's possible that the selectors would choose one of those for the third place.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know that Tom has had some challenges. His father helped him with some things. I guess we're all going to be able to watch it on streaming video, it sounds like, right?
Yes, it's on the British Athletics website.
Oh, good.
And I mean, the women's, there's no pre-selections, but there are 17 runners, 2 automatic places. There are currently 2 runners, Lily Partridge and Steph Davis, who have the qualifying time. There are 4 who are quite close to it. And then there's people like Charlotte Purdue and Steph Twell, who are not in the race, but who I don't think have declared that they're not interested in the Olympics. So, again, there could be a selection of somebody who's not actually in the race. Quite fascinating stuff. And again, for some of them, it'll be a new experience running a marathon, which is 12 laps round and round, with no spectators, and with only 17 others. So if it spreads out, you could be running on your own quite a lot. So a long way to run on your own if you're used to running big city marathons with people around you, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
Then we have the two women's and men's 20K race walking, and now men's and women's. There's only Tom Bosworth who already has the qualifying time. There are 10 in the men and 8 in the women's, and again, I know, talking to one of the women whom I know quite well, she thinks that having a race with no atmosphere when every one of the women is trying to run walk a PR is going to be a challenge. And again, she would say that she's not in her best form because she hasn't had any chance to compete for months. So it's a pretty tall order, and we could easily see no one but Tom Bosworth actually qualifying from this event. But of course, there are months more to the Olympics for people to get the qualifying time. But it's a tall order to have a 6 a.m. race with only 8 or 10 in it, with no atmosphere, when you're not race sharp. But it had to be done sometime, and that's the situation.
Yeah, no, we interviewed Tom, and we posted it on Friday, and I'm going to post it tonight. But to do an event, as we both know, in the pandemic is a challenge. To do an event with the situation that you put together is a nightmare. And British Athletics, to their credit, got involved doing the streaming, but they only did it after, when Tom felt he had no choice, he went out to the social media world to see if somebody would help him. And I was actually out looking for sponsors for him when I got a call, very relieved, thanking British Athletics for getting involved. But I tend to think that our friend Joe Coates is being pushed to the max right now. We've been writing about her for over almost a year, and I think she's trying to establish herself, which we admire. Sometimes we question the coaching staff and some of those decisions, and you did very eloquently this last week. I'm posting that piece tonight. Although I got to tell you, I thought Christian Malcolm did a nice job in talking about the performances in tow room, and he observed and commented on some things that show that he is paying attention. So I like that. But what's really nice to me about the GB Marathon trials is that it's a personal collaboration between Tom and Dave Bedford, father and son and father. And Tom told me last week that his father's become so adept at Zoom and these FaceTime phone calls that normally that's Tom's last phone call of the day, when David's telling him, giving him some British slang word for, you're wrong. And it's probably not the cleanest one. So I would get a chuckle out of that. It's just nice working with your dad. So kind of cool. So I hope. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I was going to say, did you see Tom's little post on Twitter? When they were out working, a badger, the animal, a badger, happened to run along the track. And so Tom posted, "We've blown the budget on engaging Bill the Badger to measure the length of the course."
Well, badgers are the state, one of the state animals in Wisconsin. And it's the mascot of the university too. And I've seen a couple zipping around my yard a couple times, which is kind of cool. The area looks wonderful. You're completely correct, because Tom also did a little video of him zipping around on the course at about 5-minute pace. And I guess your team selection time is 2:11:30, which Chris Thompson, our dear friend Tomo, one of the funniest men in sports. I swear I shared a bus or a car with him one time back from the London Marathon Expo, and he had people laughing so hard they were crying by the time we got back to the hotel. He just has such a great sense of humor. So he's one of those people you can cheer, you like to cheer on. But
Yeah.
it should be fun. I'm going to get up to watch it, and I'll probably just stay up because it'll end up being at like 10 o'clock my time on Thursday evening. Now we're going to get to a little sad thing. No spectators in Tokyo. My friend, what are your deep thoughts about that?
Well, it's one of those things where the announcement was made yesterday, but it was leaked weeks ago, so it comes as no surprise.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think there's so many things about Tokyo which are sad, but equally you have to commend them for being able, as we think at the moment, to have Olympics.
Mhm.
When, this time last year, they weren't able to do it. So I think there's a lot of compromises. I think you and I have said before, if it works out that you and I are both there, it won't be like any Olympics we've ever seen before. But it will happen. If it doesn't happen, any athlete who's 30 now, will not be in prime shape for Paris. So it's a chance for people who are towards the end of their career to compete. And I think it's better for that to happen than to say, oh, well, it's not going to be like the Olympics, so we won't hold it. So, yeah, I think it's sad. What's being discussed at the moment in the UK is no spectators, okay. But what about relatives of Olympians? Can we make an exception, for the family?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Who want to see someone compete?
I suspect, my friend, we're also going to hear quite shortly that most media like you and I are not going to be allowed to go, that we're going to be following stuff remotely, like we did with European broadcasting, with the Torun event. I just cannot see how the Japanese are going to let us in. And USOC has said nothing to me except that I have been assured that there's a, how do I put this in English without getting my butt kicked? Okay. I believe that if we go over and if we get on flights where there's no one with COVID, and if we're not quarantined before, of the 10 days of track and field, we will lucky to be in it 4 or 5. That we will be spending our time in our hotel room watching it that way. And I'm kind of going, you know what? I like Japanese hotels. I love Japanese food. I like Japanese beer. I love Japanese people. But sitting in a Japanese hotel for 6 days is not my idea of covering the Olympics. I would rather, yeah.
I just could say, if anyone has not been in a Japanese hotel room, think of a hotel room and half the size.
Yes, and
all Japanese hotel rooms are tiny.
Yeah, we stayed in 2007 when I was in Osaka. I was in a business hotel. It was $41 US a night, and it was wonderful. But it was the size of my closet, my water closet, and half of that was the water closet that spoke to you in Japanese, and you had to press the right buttons for it to be a toilet or a shower. And I swore to God that I was going to get caught in it. I was terrified. And then the funniest thing was, it's humid as heck there, and their air conditioning unit is the size of an iPad. And I just got to the point where I turn it up full blast, put it on my stomach at night, and then put on old Japanese heavy metal videos. And you'd wake up in the middle of the night and Rod Stewart would be playing on Japanese TV, back when he was doing Maggie May kind of stuff. And it was an experience, and I did love it. But I feel bad for the Japanese people because they really wanted to do an event. The Japanese government is in the hole now, 14 to 16 billion. They'll be lucky if they see 2 billion of it back. And the LOC is going to feel humiliated, and they're in a no-win situation. And then we've just heard something about I think it was a miscommunication we've heard somebody in our U.S. government's trying to get the U.S. not to go to 2022 in Beijing, but someone was saying, well, no, they're telling them not to go to Tokyo, and I haven't heard that. So I hope it just doesn't get to that. I want people to have choices. I will tell you that if I don't get to go to Japan, I'm going to find a way to get to Portugal and watch it on EBU and, enjoy, work at night and get a little time in the sun during the day, And so we'll figure it out. But now let's talk about COVID and Torun. Oh, my gosh, Stuart, it's everywhere.
Well, the event seemed to go very well, but since it ended, teams have been quite cagey, but I have heard something, at least 50 athletes who've tested positive since it. It's interesting. I've got a piece which I'll send you this evening.
Okay.
I spoke to Jesse Knight, who said when we arrived, we were taken immediately to the arena. We were tested, and we had to wait half an hour for the test result in an underground car park, and it was all fine. But then somebody else told me that as it got busier, it took longer for the test results to come through. And at one stage, there was 200 to 300 people waiting 3 hours in this underground car park.
Oh, my gosh.
And then there was apparently a group of one, I won't name the country so that we're not sued. There was one country where it was alleged that 30 of them were in one hotel room partying on the last night.
Wow. I'm shocked about it. There could be many countries that would do that,
Yeah. And you see, the British team escaped with no issues, and then suddenly on the way home, one person tested positive. And so the team all got a message, you have to isolate. And then there were 8 of the 8 or 10 on the team. I mean, the saddest one I thought was Holly Bradshaw. I spoke to her intern 2 days before, and she said, look, if I got COVID now, I've only got it from my coach Scott or my husband, because I haven't seen anyone in the last 3 months. I do all my shopping online. I only train with only Scott present. I don't go out. I'm not seeing anyone because she goes to Turin and she gets COVID.
I've identified 7 teams from Europeans, and it's between 50 and 60 right now. The Germans tried to hide it, and their comment was, well, because of our medical rules, we can't say anything, which I thought was kind of a load. But it's I admire the EAA for doing it. I'm proud of track and fields on the first global event. You knew there'd be some people. The interim president is been chastised a little bit, and that's not fair because if Sven Arne was alive, Sven, would have tried to do this, and because these athletes are going crazy. The overwhelming thing I get over here when someone's run one of the small meets is gratitude. When I talked to Grant Holloway about going to Torun and a few of the meets, he told me how they were testing him. He was with his manager, our agent, the whole time. Didn't really get to go see much. Played his computer games. He likes to do that Call of Duty stuff. And it sounds like that's. And I talked to 3 or 4 other Americans who went over, and they all had the same experience. They really had to watch stuff, and which is what you got to do. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we've got a good 8 to 10 months yet. It'll be around Commonwealth Games, and Eugene and Europeans, all that stuff. It's going to be 2022 before we start feeling good.
But you see, the European Indoors is a 3-day event. But Move that forward, which means that on the fourth and the fifth day, you're back home.
Yeah.
But move that forward to Tokyo.
Yeah.
By the fourth or fifth day, some people won't have competed yet. And I mean, the situation of the poor Eileen Behrings, who was tested 8 times in a 2-week period.
Yeah.
The first 4 are negative, then the fifth is positive, probably a false positive, and then the last 3 were negative. But she wasn't allowed to compete. So I think there's bound to be athletes who go to Tokyo, and there's a random rogue test comes out, and they're not allowed to compete.
Oh yeah. No, that'll happen. The 5 or 6%, which means we'll have several hundred athletes who will get tested, and there'll also be several hundred who will be spreaders, and that's the whole thing. I mean, it's like you're gonna love this. So I'm in a small town in Wisconsin, right? So my hospital called me an hour before you called, and they've set me up for my first test, my first vaccine on Wednesday. Okay, so that's it's a 2-1. So I would get one on Wednesday and one on April 28th. Then I got a text that the little pharmacy in town may have the 1-shot ones, and so I may end up getting that tomorrow. Oh, good for you.
I've had mine, and I've had my sticker to prove it.
Did you get it 1 shot or 2 shots?
I've had one, and I've got one to come.
Okay, that's awesome. After you've had both of yours, will you start going to events?
Well, from my point of view, I'd be happy to do that. But at the moment, I don't think I'm allowed to go anywhere.
See, that's what I'm questioning.
Yeah. I think until the 17th of May, I am only allowed to leave the country if it is essential travel. And I mean, for example, I was thinking of going to the World Relays in Poland.
Yeah.
But the big question with that event now, because Poland has just gone into a 3-week lockdown.
Wow.
Because their numbers have shot up in the last week. And so they're going into a 3-week lockdown. And I mean, the World Relays is the first week in May, which must be 6 weeks from now. And if Poland is going to be in lockdown for 3, could be longer, I just can't see how you can do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the moment, the way Britain operates is that if the government thinks a country has got too high, they're put on what's called the red list, which means you have to quarantine if you come back from it. And there is speculation that France, where the numbers are rocketing, is going to go on the red list. So first of all, am I allowed to go? And secondly, what is the risk of going somewhere and being stuck? I mean, the reason that none of the UK written press went to Torrance is that the rules were that if you test positive, you have to stay for 10 days in the country at your own expense.
Wow.
And then potentially you could do that and then find that the country you're in is on the UK red list. And when you get to Heathrow, you're taken to a hotel where you have a nice hotel and you're well looked after. And at the end of it, you pay $2,500.
Yeah.
So, the question of whether I will travel, there's no straightforward answer because it depends on what's happening and also where you want to go. First of all, if you're allowed to go, if it's safe to go, and what the consequences for coming back are.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to figure out that. Yeah, it's just, because, we used to go to Doha so often at the beginning of the season. And I was hoping that if I got my shots, I'd be able to do that, but I just don't know now.
Yeah, like that would be the first one that I might go to now that the world really. I mean, at the end of May.
Yeah.
I mean, Doha. Probably Qatar's numbers are quite low, but then my daughter, who is a physician, says that she worries more about getting through Heathrow than what will happen when I get somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what.
because you've got a busy airport. You can't avoid people.
Yeah, because I would go Chicago or SFO to Frankfurt, or I can actually out of SFO go direct to Doha, which would be the way to go. And so we'll have to see if we get a chance to do that. That will be interesting.
But just one thing to see. At the moment, the government is telling people in the UK not to book a vacation in Europe.
Wow.
This year, because they say that at this stage things have got to improve a lot before we're going to be allowed to do that. I mean, it's remarkable how in a democracy we are having stuff imposed on us that you wouldn't have believed possible a year ago.
Oh no. It's the thing that's scary about it is, and I understand people going, well, the government's trying to control us, but it's also they understand that you could in 128 hours infect people on every continent because of our ability to travel, our open society, and the people are questioning that right now, and it's scary. And I don't have a great answer for it. I mean, it's just like, but going from just what you said right there, I got asked. I was speaking to someone the other day, and we were talking about the Diamond League, and I had made the comment that Italy had just closed down last Monday, and Germany's in a lockdown, and that France is in a lockdown, and that Sweden, and in the UK, I was telling people about the UK from your conversation, and so I was asked the Zen question: what's happening with the Diamond League then? Is it going to be tougher this year to have a Diamond League than it was last year? And that I don't know.
If the Diamond League, if the Diamond League were this month, I don't think I could go. Elite athletes sometimes get an exemption, but I mean, Holly Bradshaw in the indoors should have won the indoor series, but she went to France and wasn't allowed to compete because she had to quarantine before she competed, and she wasn't allowed to go to Madrid at all.
Yeah.
Spain wouldn't let her in. Now our numbers are better than Spain's, and we're worrying about whether we would let our citizens go to Spain and come back.
Yeah. It's a very strange world.
Very strange.
What do you think? How do you think? So it sounds like most of the countries in Europe. So this is March. So there's the time between now and the Diamond League that even if they had extended for 6 weeks or 9 weeks or 12 weeks, we could still have stuff in June, July, and August. You guys have? I understand in the UK that half of the adults. It looks like half the adults have been vaccinated now. At least one shot.
Yes.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Here's what I was asking about on part 5 today. Why are relays such a huge thing? What is it about relay teams, these relay meets like the one that's coming up in Silesia, that are
For me, track and field is an individual sport. Right. But the relay is a team sport.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think a 4x4 relay is the most exciting race because you have people starting off running in lanes, then it's a free-for-all, then you have the changeovers, and a good changeover to a bad changeover can determine who wins, and there's the strategy. If you and I are running against each other on the last leg, do I try to establish a lead on you? Do I try to make you lead and then attack you? Just all the strategy is there.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, the world relays. I enjoy those events. Some of the more quaint ones, I'm less sure about. Um, I never seen the hurdles shuttle relay before. That was great fun to watch.
Yeah.
Um, I talked to some of the Kenyans who won the 4x1500. Who said it was a very strange experience to get the baton with a big lead and to run 1500 meters completely on your own.
Yeah.
Just to have to work out how fast you should be running. Um, I mean, the other thing for us, because we're chasing medal targets, relays have been a good way of getting medals. And I mean, just one more thing from the last
Sure.
World Relay, the last World Relays in Tokyo. There was a 4x200, and the Jamaicans had a couple of athletes. I think one was called Elaine Thompson, the
Yes.
other one Shelley Ann somebody, but they didn't win the race
Yeah.
because they messed up the button changes.
Yeah.
And so you've got that. You can have the fastest athletes in the race, and if you can't do the baton exchange, you're screwed. And I
Well,
mean, that's just part of the fun.
as the U.S. has shown between 1912 and the present, that used to infuriate my late editor James Dunaway. Part of the thing I was thinking about too is their tradition. I think you guys, the way you've put together your teams for relays, the 4x1 and the 4x4, has been brilliant. I wish the U.S. would take more of an attitude like that. Our whole thing is as well, we've got all these precious independent athletes, and we don't want to mess up their creativity. Well, the bottom line is, like you said, you got to get the baton around. Doesn't matter if you have the 4 fastest people in the world. And that's shown that so many times. Our question 6 of the night is, will vaccines change the sporting landscape?
I mean, it's interesting that reading the playbook for Tokyo, it says vaccines are a good thing, but vaccines will change nothing. You still have to wear a mask. You still have to socially distance. Again, see, at the moment, if you look at the situation in Britain, you mentioned that half the adult population has been vaccinated. In France, Germany, and other countries, you're less than 10%.
Yeah, I don't get that.
And they've had this ridiculous situation of saying that one of the main vaccine they're using isn't safe. And they've done so much, the government had done so much scaremongering that apparently now most people don't want to be vaccinated. So, and they're saying with us, the vaccination will always be voluntary, but if you choose not to have it, there may be certain things you can't do. Certain countries may say we're only accepting people. I mean, cruise companies have already said this. Cruise companies are saying that we will only allow people to go on our ships who have had a vaccine. No ifs, no buts.
Yeah. I think that's really, really important. Yeah, I think we're going to get to the place in 2022, 2023. We're going to have the enough people have taken the vaccines to help, but it's going to take much more time than some of the folks in the general media have suggested. Fall marathons, everybody's doing a fall marathon. How are we going to cover them, buddy?
Yeah, the only person that I have heard thinks it's a great thing is Brent Lakatos, who won the London wheelchair, who thinks, that he might take a couple of weeks off work and do them all. Just go from one to the other.
That's a great idea. That would be a lot of fun to see. I'd love to see him do that.
Yeah.
I think that could be a really cool thing. So I'm just closing my window because it's starting to freeze over here.
Right.
I think it's springtime, but It's I think we got the rain coming in. And so yeah, I mean, we've got London, we've got Chicago, and see, two of the big ones are on the same day. And so it's going to be, Chicago and Boston on the same day. But I'm kind of going, what's going on with you guys? And then Germany and Berlin, they just had an elite spring marathon, about 20 people. So we have these boutique track meets, and now we have boutique pop-up marathons. Guys running 2:10. What do you think of something like that? Any thoughts?
I mean, I think it'll be great to see a proper marathon again. On a proper marathon course. I mean, London did well to have it, but it didn't quite look the same just for the elite runners and running laps. So I think it'd be great to see it. But again, it's based on an assumption that everything is going to be normal by the fall.
Yeah.
I would just give you a piece of advice. I wouldn't put the family fortune on that happening.
Yeah, I think you're, being from the intellectual capital of the world, I tend to believe anything you say, Stuart. So,
right.
And I respect that. But you've now survived 38 minutes, my friend, and this Athletics Chat 44. So I want you to stay safe this week, and we'll come up with some deep thoughts for next week. And thank you again for your time tonight, my friend.
Okay.
All right. This is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun with Stuart Weir in Oxford, England, intellectual capital of the world. I'm in the cheese capital of the world, and we combine to give you Athletics Chat. This is the 44th episode. We've solved many of the world's problems, although no one's suggests this for the Nobel Peace Prize or anything. So I'm disappointed sometimes, or one of those nice MacArthur Foundation grants, But if you like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you love us, subscribe on YouTube and send us a note. Stuart and I would love to see a note from somebody. If you have a deep question that, you could ask about catechism, if you want to, and, we'll try to do our best to explain something. I'm not sure we'll have an answer. Yeah, I've been listening to George Carlin again, Stuart, and he talks about asking the priest in the Catholic school every week some strange question during the heavy mystery hour. And I think maybe we got to do that one of these times too. We'll let people ask us questions, All right. So, because I can tell Mike is going, Larry, when are you going to end this one? Okay. So this is Athletics Chat 44. Good evening. Thank you, Stuart. Talk to you soon.
Good evening. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, sports fans, Larry Eder, RunBlogRun. This is the epilogue of Athletics Chat 44. We know it's your favorite program, and you know the drill. Stuart Weir in Oxford, England, the intellectual capital. Larry Eder, moi, in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, the cheese and dairy capital of the world. And we get together once a week for 40 to 45 minutes, depending on how much time producer Mike Deering gives us. And we solve many, notice I'm trying to be rather modest, many of the problems, the challenges in athletics, or as some people say, the opportunities in global athletics each week. So we had 8 topics today. First was GB Marathon Trials, which are going to be held this Friday. It is a son-father effort. Tom Bedford and his father, Dave Bedford, put it on. It's 12 3.3K laps, and I think 2 point something K lap. And it's in Kew Gardens. There is a lot on the line. Caleb Hawkins is selected. I think he's running 25 or 30K to pace people. There's 5 or 6 people who could make the team on the men's side. In the women's side, I don't think there's anybody pre-selected, but there's several who have the standard, and we're just going to have to see. It could be very exciting. There's also a 20K race walk featuring British star Tom Bosworth, and then there's also a 50K starting at 6 a.m. The 50K starts at 6. The marathon starts at 8, which means in lovely Wisconsin, I'll just stay up and watch it. British Athletics is streaming it. Thanks for British Athletics doing that and offering it for free to the world. That's pretty classy. No spectators in Tokyo. Yep, that's what we've heard, and it's the worst kept secret in the sport. I wonder how much access media is going to have over there, and I wonder how many media are just going to say we're going to do it remotely. We'll have to see. It's going to be rather strange. COVID in tow room. Right now, we've identified 7 to 10 teams with about 60 athletes that have that tested positive for COVID after the event. Should they have done the event? Yes. We still think it's a great event. Things happen, and you're dealing with humans. We're going to be dealing with this between 2022 and 2023, and we're going to have outbreaks of some type of pandemic for the rest of our lives. It is the power of us telling Mother Nature to screw off. And when you get around the world in 128 hours, yes, a lot of people can get sick because you could put sick people out there if you needed to. All right, Diamond League this summer. Good question. France, Italy, Germany closed right now. Other countries are going to close. Will there be a fourth wave? We don't know. We're just going to have to see. This will be a harder summer than last summer. Relays, why so big? People working together is the closest to team thing. Great Britain and UK have a great tradition. The US has a great tradition, unfortunately, sometimes of dropping the baton with really fast people. UK drops stuff occasionally, but the difference is they're a team. Interesting concept, huh? So that whole independence thing that we talk about in the US, how you take these wildly disparate people and bringing them together and making them work together might, challenge their self-doubt or something. You know what? Get the baton around the track. That's the whole thing. Will vaccines change the landscape? Right now, 30% of Americans apparently won't take the vaccine. I've got, by the time you guys see this, I'll have been inoculated either first for 2 or I'll get a 1 timer. I'd hope to get the 1 timer. We'll have to see how it goes. But I've never had a question about it. I have family and friends who do. They just want to make sure everything's okay. So wish them luck with that. Fall marathons, lots of fall marathons, too many fall marathons. Chicago and Boston are the same day. I think that stuff's just ludicrous. I also think putting 70,000 people in your virtual marathon and giving them the same medal as the real marathon is diluting your brand. And I don't understand how people are doing it. You know what? It's just it's either money grubbing or please explain to me what you're doing, because it took me 8 marathons to qualify for the Boston Marathon. In my age group at 25, I had to run, I think, under 251. And I ran 251.18, then I ran 247.12. I earned it. And it's one of the proudest things I had in sports for me. And now they're doing a virtual one and people get medals and stuff. And it's great. I think all that is wonderful, but it should be a different situation, different medals, different everything. And right now, the way I understand it, and I hope Jack Fleming reaches out or one of the other folks, or Chris Lotzbaum, and just tells Larry, you're smoking crack. This is what's really going on. I like what the Atlanta Track Club's doing, where they're doing a virtual and a real. And we'll talk to you more about that. We've got a feature coming up on them soon, too. Elite spring marathons, the folks in Berlin just did one yesterday. A 2:10:35 was the winning time, 2:31 in the women. Great idea. If we can do boutique track meets, we can do boutique marathons. I was a little disturbed when I saw the USATF schedule come out on the Road to Tokyo series, and it didn't include any of Jesse Williams' events. And I hope that was just an oversight that can be fixed. What Jesse's doing is fantastic. Having the sprint and throw meets with the distance meets rocks. There's got to be a way to work things out. You guys are all smart enough to do that. I'll let you figure out how to play well with others. Okay. This is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. This is athletics chat number 44, and I tried to get it done in about 5 minutes, and I think I was at 7. But if you like us, go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram on RunBlogRun, and like us, please, all 3. If you love us, subscribe on the YouTube. 2,500 videos and audios since 2010, 369 that poor Mike Deering had to edit last year. And he still is talking to me, which I'm most appreciative of. So stay safe. Good evening.